Let me tell you, he only joined this club less than a month. But this guy already competed in the humor speech contest.
Yeah.
Also won table topping masters. Someone was saying maybe he's from Silicon Valley. He also has a very distinguished laughter. Who is this guy? Alborz Heydaryan is a senior UI UX designer. He used to say good design is invisible, but now he believes good design is inevitable. In his free time, he likes to create cool motion graphics and share them with the 5,000 people who follow his work on Instagram. He joined the Toastmaster to master the subtle arts of communication and to be a better leader. He chose this club in particular to get inspired from fellow leaders and believers to better prepare himself for what the future may hold. Today is his very first speech, titled My Passion Changing Addiction. Let's welcome Alborz on the stage.
I feel very lucky to have been raised in a creative environment. I remember going to my father's carpentry workshop and watching him ruminate over the details. He would take a lot of pride in having everything fit together perfectly on the first try, a true embodiment of measure twice, cut once. My mother, a seamstress who specialized in wedding dresses. Sometimes when I got bored, I would go to her room with my puzzles and sit in the corner playing with them while she was working. And sometimes when she was designing a new dress, she would show it to me and walk me through the thought process. She taught me the importance of eliminating clutter from design. She taught me that the simpler a design gets, the more timeless it becomes. And sometimes when I got bored, I would go to my uncle's architecture firm just downstairs. I would sneak into his office, find one of his drawings, and find a French curve on a pen, and I would try to copy what he has designed. Fast forward a few years to 2003. The 13-year-old me, on a weekend morning, got up very excited, got dressed, barely had breakfast, and rushed out of the house. With the pocket money I had saved that week, I got a cab to go to the city center to buy the latest issue of my favorite car magazine.
Yeah.
That was the best part of my week. The first thing I would do when I buy each new issue was to rush through to the middle page where there is a double spread photo of a car, where I would take it out and put it on my bedroom wall. That week, however, I didn't only get a photo of a car. I got something that would change my life forever. When I opened the page, this is what I saw.
Wow.
This is a Peugeot 4002 concept car, and this was in 2003.
Wow.
I was awed by the sheer amount of beauty from a car for the first time in my life. I just kept looking at the photo thinking, how could somebody ever create such a beautiful car? It was no longer a car to me, it was like sculpting, it was like a piece of art. And at that moment, something clicked. I knew I want to be a car designer. I want to make others feel the same way I felt with my work one day. Fast forward a few more years, I moved to Malaysia to study product design, to become a car designer. Few things changed. I became obsessed with Apple. Their attention to detail, the intuitive interface, and the crazy amount of attention to detail. And the way Steve Jobs, every time that he was on stage, he got the whole world on the edge of their seat, waiting for him to present the next big thing. By the end of college, all the projects I was working on in school were about Apple. I was designing Apple hairdryers, And I was presenting them to my class as if I was Steve Jobs, presenting them to the whole world.
Yeah.
Right after graduating, my family and I immigrated to Canada. Not having a job, I did what I know how to do best, design Apple concept products. Except this time, I didn't have an audience anymore because I wasn't in college anymore. So I went online and I found a meetup called Vancouver iDevelopers. I contacted the president and he was kind enough to let me present some of my works for the group. The first few presentations were very well received, but there was something missing. You see, developers don't really care about the hardware design. They care about the interface. So what I did for my next presentation was put a bit of interface into the design. And when I presented that, something happened. After the presentation, one of the developers came up to me and said, "Would you like to design my next app?" I said, "Yeah." And that was the first app that I ever designed. During the process, something happened. I started noticing poorly designed apps that I was using on a daily basis and how irritating they were. And then I started seeing it everywhere. I started noticing how my parents were struggling to learn a new app just so that they could stay in touch with their loved ones. And it made me angry. Why didn't the designer take a bit more time thinking about the interface? Why did they have to make it so hard? Why do my parents have to struggle to learn such a basic app? And that day I made it my mission that every interface that I'm going to work on will be so easy to use, so intuitive, that my parents could use them with no explanation. And I was lucky that I got to work on around 40 apps since that day. So to sum it up, I saw a picture of a car, and it made me all warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a car designer. Then I discovered Apple and Steve Jobs and their presentation and attention to detail, and I wanted to be like Steve Jobs. And later on, I discovered there are many poorly designed apps out there. And I discovered many people are using Android. So I decided to be a UI UX designer. Because you know why? Life is too short for Android. Thank you.